Hello, this is Gordon J. Alexander, and you're listening to number 1 in a series that I'm calling Lessons of a Lifetime. And today we're going to be talking about a stimulus response world in which we live. And I'm going to tell you a story about how I discovered this world of stimulus response when I was a 9-year-old boy. Listen very carefully. It's going to be a short audio. I'm going to try not to go over 15 minutes on any given program that I'm doing. Then you can put them all together. You can download these on your MP3 players and listen to them and take notes later on, whatever. We live in a stimulus response world, and these first 4 lessons that I'm going to be giving you, my lessons of a lifetime, build a foundation, kind of a 4-walled foundation that you can build upon. And even just this very first audio that you're listening to could be very life-changing for you. It's dynamic information, and you're going to love it. Let's get started right away. I have to take you back to the late spring of 1959. I was living in Talmadge, Ohio at 88 Nottingham Drive. And I was out playing in the yard, and Mr. Allen was washing his cars across the street on Marianne Drive. And he calls me over and he offers me a quarter to help him wash and wax his cars. Well, that's big money for me. I got a nickel allowance every week. So a quarter was a big deal. And I said, sure. Well, about that time, Mrs. Zilg across the street called me over and asked me, gave me some scissors and said, go into the field and cut me some flowers and I'll give you a nickel. So I got my wagon and I went into the field. Now, this field had been a nursery at one time in the 40s and 50s. It had gone to seed, but the perennials still came up. It was a beautiful field. And so I went in and cut some flowers for her. Took them back, and she said, oh, it's way too many. She said, I'll tell you what, I'll give you a dime. Why don't you go take Mrs. Mighton, the next door neighbor, some flowers and tell her that I paid for them for her. So I took them over to Mrs. Mighton. She said, thank you very much. Well, I went to go to help Mr. Allen wash and wax his cars. And he said, why don't you go ahead up and down the street and finish selling this wagon load of flowers you got. Maybe some other ladies would give you a nickel for them. And he said to me, if a woman says no, then you come running back and tell me why she said she wasn't interested, okay? Now, I didn't know this at the time, but Mr. Allen was like a salesman. And he was a relatively young man, and he was getting started in his sales career in insurance. And these Saturday mornings for that summer of me helping him wash and wax his car became a series of sales lessons, but I didn't know this at the time. So I took my wagon full of flowers and I ran up and knocked on the door. And I said, would you like some flowers? They're only a nickel. And here's what the lady said to me, Jay, why in the world would I pay you for something I can walk out my door and get for free? I thought that was a pretty good question. I said, I don't know. Just a minute. She kind of looked puzzled. I ran down to Mr. Allen. Mr. Allen, why would she give me a nickel for something she can walk out her back door and get for free? You tell her that I said she could pick all the flowers she wants, just to be careful of the big snakes and the wild field mice. I kind of giggled. At any given day, my wagon was full of snakes and mice and frogs and toads. Well, what 9-year-old boy didn't have those things? But I went back, I knocked on her door, and she's kind of annoyed, and she said, what did I tell you? I said, yes, ma'am. I said, Mr. Allen said, pick all the flowers you want, just be careful of the big snakes and the wild field mice. I said exactly as he told me. Something happened, and this is important. This is the whole gist of this entire lesson of a lifetime. And if you come to understand this, it's a powerful thing. And over the course of the next few days, when you start to use this and watch this and observe this, it's literally going to give you a whole new mindset, a whole new way of seeing things. Here's what happened when I told this woman about the big snakes and the wild field mice. I looked at this woman and she changed colors. The color went out of her face. She became kind of a white and ashen. And she started to mutter, big snakes, big snakes. And her eyes became real big and kind of glazed over. I I didn't know this at the time. I had thrown the woman into hypnotic trance. She goes, how much? I said, a nickel. She hands me a nickel, and would you? She said, I don't care, just give me a. And I hand her some flowers. Well, I said, wow, that was strange. Knocked on the next door. Same thing. Why would I pay for something I get? Well, Mr. Allen said, be careful of the big snakes and the wild field mice. I got the same reaction. This woman was like, she never thought about that. So about the third or fourth door I knocked on, this woman laughed at me and said, well, I'm not afraid of the big snakes and the wild field mice. You go tell Mr. Allen that. So I ran back down to him and said, Mr. Allen, she's not afraid of the. Tell her it's not that. She doesn't have to worry about the snakes or the mice. But the other day I saw this great, big, ugly, nasty black spider. Tell her just to be careful. I ran back up on the door, knocked on the door. And Mr. Allen said, be careful of the great big nasty black spider he saw in his backyard last week. And I got this very similar reaction. Here's a woman, she wasn't afraid of snakes or mice, but big nasty black spiders. That was a different story. And I went from door to door, and I kept selling flour, little bundles of flour, one after the other. Mostly they were purples and yellows. And through this interchange of me running back and forth to Mr. Allen, I learned when I knocked on the door, would you like to buy a bouquet of purple or yellow flowers? And they looked at him and said, well, how about both? Or someone would take the purple, someone would take the yellow. And I didn't know what was going on, but came to a guy. And he's home, and he said, Jay, I can walk out the back door and pick all. I'm not afraid of the snakes, the spiders, the mice, or anything else that's in that field. I ran back to Mr. Allen. He said, will you tell this man that if he were to have some flowers ready and the dishes washed when his wife got home from grocery shopping, that this could be a lucky afternoon for him? I said, what? Okay, so I ran back, knocked on his door, and said, Mr. Allen said that if you buy these flowers and wash the dishes, this could be a lucky afternoon for you. And he kind of stopped and looked at me. He said, Mr. Allen said that, huh? He said I might have a lucky afternoon? I said, yeah. He just got a grin on his face. He gave me a dime. And I sold out all the flowers. Until many years later, I even understood. Once I was married, and my wife was gone like on a Saturday morning, if somebody would have come by and knocked on my door and said I would have had a lucky afternoon, I would have paid anything probably for that. But anyhow, in a matter of 15 minutes, I had made 75 cents. 75 cents selling flowers that people could have walked out their back door and gotten for free. Then I went over and I helped Mr. Allen wash and wax his car. This took about an hour. Wax on, wax off, and I'm going like, man, this is hard work. This is hard physical work. I get home an hour later, my mom looks at me and I'm covered with water and dirt and everything. She said, what have you been doing? Well, I was helping Mr. Allen wash and wax his cars. But look, Mom, and I opened up my hand, I got $1. She looked and she said, he gave you $1 for that? And I said, no, he gave me, and I took it out and I put a quarter in my left hand. And I can remember this just as clear as if it happened yesterday. I'm looking down at my left hand and there's a quarter, and I hold it out toward my mother and I say, Mr. Allen gave me a quarter. I made this 75 cents by selling flowers door to door. She said, son, why in the world would anybody pay you for flowers they could walk out and get for free? And I said, because Mr. Allen told them to be careful about the snakes and the mice and the spiders. And she looks at me and she goes, the snakes, and kind of giggling, and she goes, the snakes and the mice and the spiders. And she goes, oh my, no wonder they gave you a nickel for their things. You go get cleaned up. Well, that wasn't the only thing that Mr. Allen had given me that day. He had sent me home with 2 books.